Imagine you're cruising comfortably at 35,000 feet. Everything seems fine, when suddenly, the plane's systems start malfunctioning. Or worse, the pilot loses control mid-flight. Scary, right? What if I told you that sometimes the crash isn't due to a single mistake, but a chain of them? Some of them you'll never hear about from the cockpit. Today, we're breaking down the top reasons for plane crashes, what pilots won't tell you. And no, it's not all about mechanical failures. Human error, weather, even a concept called the Swiss cheese model are all part of the puzzle. So stick around to see how things can go from all good to Mayday in a flash. Let's kick it off with the biggest culprit, pilot error. Yep, even the most highly trained aviators make mistakes. Two big examples: loss of control in flight and CFIT, or controlled flight into terrain. Loss of control happens when the pilot loses command of the plane's movements, and things go very wrong, very fast. CFIT is even more haunting. It's when an airplane flies directly into terrain, like a mountain or a hillside, because the pilots didn't realize how close they were to it. But here's where it gets interesting. These aren't always obvious mistakes. Sometimes, small errors pile up unnoticed until they snowball into a full-blown disaster. Why do pilots make mistakes in the first place? Well, humans aren't perfect, and human performance and limitations can play a huge role in crashes. Think about it. Fatigue, stress, or having to make quick decisions under pressure can really mess with a pilot's judgment. Ever had that feeling of being overwhelmed by too much information? Pilots experience this too, and it's called cognitive overload. Misreading instruments or failing to respond to alarms are common results. Even simple factors like dehydration or fatigue can dull their reactions. When human limitations aren't accounted for, they can stack up, adding another layer of risk. Now, onto the machines we trust to keep us in the air. While planes are designed with incredible redundancy, mechanical failures can still happen. Engine issues, electrical malfunctions, or faulty hydraulics, they've all been behind some major disasters. But here's the twist. It's not always the plane's fault. Maintenance errors or shoddy repairs are often the hidden causes behind these mechanical failures. Sometimes it's a single bolt or wire that can make all the difference between a smooth landing or a crash. Then there's the wild card, weather. Sure, pilots and planes are trained and designed to handle most conditions, but sometimes Mother Nature throws a curveball. Severe turbulence, lightning strikes, or sudden wind shear can all make life very difficult for the crew. And while pilots have the tools to anticipate storms or bad conditions, there are times when the weather simply gets the upper hand. Now let's not forget about sabotage. Though it's rare, deliberate interference, whether it's terrorism or tampering with equipment, has been behind some of the most devastating aviation disasters. This is why aviation security is so tight. But despite all the checks, when someone is determined to sabotage a flight, things can slip through the cracks. But we're not done yet. There are other factors at play, ones you probably don't think about. Air traffic control, ATC miscommunication, for example, a misunderstood instruction, or a misheard clearance can result in tragedy. Then there's ground handling. Something as minor as incorrectly loading cargo can throw off the plane's balance, leading to disaster. And sometimes, we simply don't know what went wrong. It's these unknown factors that make air crash investigations so challenging. Now, how do all these causes come together? It's called the Swiss cheese model. Imagine slices of Swiss cheese stacked together. Each slice represents a layer of defense. Skilled pilots, well-maintained aircraft, and solid ATC coordination. But here's the catch. Each slice has holes. When those holes align, disaster strikes. It's not usually one big mistake that causes a crash, but a series of small ones, all lined up. This is exactly why it's so important for pilots to remain competent. It's not just about knowing how to fly. It's about responding effectively when things go sideways. And here's where the evidence-based training approach comes in. Using real-world data from accidents and incidents, pilots train in simulators to handle the kinds of situations they're most likely to face. In these simulators, pilots practice everything from engine failures to adverse weather, honing their decision-making skills under pressure. This kind of training ensures that pilots aren't just passing tests, they're ready for whatever comes their way. So next time you're buckled in at 30,000 feet, remember, there are many layers keeping you safe. But all it takes is for those tiny holes to line up. Human error, mechanical failure, unpredictable weather, they're all part of the equation. Stay curious and stay safe.